Alright, what's up, Dragon Brood? With Duskmourn coming up, we have a new deck type, or maybe we should say an old deck type that we get to play with again, and that's kind of an aggro enchantments list. Now, it's going to look different because we're getting to play blue this time instead of just green-white, but we got a lot of new cards in the set that actually make a lot of sense. Also, before we hop into this, I almost always have somebody say, why don't you show the whole deck list a different way, or why don't you just, we're having to use a different site because it's not in Arena yet. So, we're going to do the best we can with this so we can show you cards and talk about them so y'all have new decks and ideas to work with as the set drops. But we start with an old card with Calyx, Guided by Fate. Now this card lets you put +1/+1 counters on things as you play enchantments, and then if you have an enchanted creature hit the opponent or a Calyx, then you actually get to copy one of those enchantments, which again also creates another +1/+1. It's a whole thing. So this actually is a really cool idea because several of the cards we're playing happen to be enchantments and creatures. So that's actually pretty sweet. One of those cards I want to try out is Enduring Curiosity. Partly because it's a 4-mana 4/3 with flash, which is great, but it also lets you draw extra cards anytime your creatures hit the opponent. This could also work in a case where maybe they let a creature through thinking, okay, I'm only going to take 2 damage or whatever. You flash this in and then you get to draw a card. And if you have something down that cares about an enchantment entering the battlefield, you also get those triggers as well. Additionally, maybe the opponent sweeps the board, right? Okay, cool. During their end step, you make a 4/3, and now you have a way to attack next turn, probably going to connect, and you get a card for your troubles. So this is actually really good because it should help you keep from running out of gas along with the other things that are in the deck. And when it dies, it comes back as an enchantment anyway, so there's a chance it might trigger things twice, which is super cool. Now, Ghostly Dancers, this is one of the reasons I kind of made the deck list because I wanted to find other things we could do with enchantments, and this is the card I wanted to play because I didn't know where it was going to go just yet. But Ghostly Dancers is a 5-mana 2/5. It has flying, and when it enters, you can return an enchantment from your graveyard to your hand, which could be a creature in this case, as we just saw, or you can unlock a door. Now, I'll say there's only one room that we're playing here, so there could be more rooms worth playing. I just kind of gave them a cursory glance and didn't see any that I really wanted, mostly because of their cost or the abilities didn't line up too much. But whenever you have another enchantment in the battlefield or you unlock a room, you get to make a 3/1 spirit with flying as well. This is big because it's very easy. We're going to have a ton of enchantments and enchantment creatures. So there's going to be a lot of times you're going to play stuff and get an effect and a token, an effect and a token, right? This is really, really, really nice here. Goblin Tamer, or Gremlin Tamer, I should say. Why am I getting this name wrong? Gremlin Tamer, there we go. It's a white and a blue for a 2/2. When you have another enchantment enter the battlefield or you unlock a room, you create a 1/1 Gremlin creature token. This is actually pretty cool because we needed another early drop, and I went looking into the set, and I've magically found this 2/2 for 2. All right, reasonable. Also ends up allowing us to have other bodies, which is great for having blockers. Again, for pushing through damage with an Enduring Curiosity, so you can get more cards. So lots of cool stuff you can do with this, especially early. It's a good 2-drop, and then so many things you play after that are going to trigger this for extra creatures. So it allows this to turn into even more of a little bit of an aggressive situation. Now, one of the things that makes this function is Inquisitive Glimmer. It's also a blue and a white, but this time for a 2/3, happens to be an enchantment itself, and then it makes rooms cheaper to unlock, and it makes enchantments cheaper to play. That does apply to the creatures that happen to be enchantments as well. So something to keep in mind if you want to try other cards in this list, this is really good for making a lot of those other enchantments cheaper. One of the other things, too, is Optimistic Scavenger. This is very similar to a green creature we saw last cycle, I was going to say, but last standard because it was pre-rotation. And whenever you play an enchantment or unlock a room, you get to put a +1/+1 on target creature. So there's a lot of ways we could be getting bonuses, from this, from Calyx, Ghostly Dancers producing an extra token, Gremlin Tamer getting another creature, right? Just everything's value on top of value here with these creatures. And then some straight up enchantments we're going to be playing. Audacity is one, because one, it gives your things trample after you've put all these counters and things on them or other enchantments, and it lets you draw a card if the creature dies. Or if the creature just goes away, this goes to the graveyard, you get to draw a card. So we don't hate that at all, especially if you can get it on a flyer and just pump it up that much more, it's really good. The one room we're going to play is a couple of copies, and I'll read this out to you because it doesn't show up too well here, but the side we're really worried about is Dollmaker's Shop. It's a white and a colorless. Whenever one or more non-toy creatures you control attack, you get a 1/1 white toy artifact creature token. So basically every turn you're attacking, you get another 1/1. The other side, though, is Porcelain Gallery, which is 4 colorless, white. Creatures you control have base power and toughness, each equal to the number of creatures you control. So this means that, let's say the game does go long and you made a few toys off of this from attacking. Maybe you've got 4 or 5, maybe that's too many. Maybe 2 or 3 tokens still on the board from your Gremlin Tamer. Well, then you go ahead and unlock the Porcelain Gallery, and now all your stuff is like 5/5s or 6/6s or whatever. And that can help you close the game out. Now, I don't think it's going to be very often you're actually going to want to open the Porcelain Gallery. It's probably going to be in situations where you have a little bit of a stalemate, but you never know. You never know. So we're going to try that out here. And Feather of Flight. This is one that's already been starting to get played a little bit. I've seen it pop up in some of the Boros Mouse decks, a couple of other kind of enchantment-based things, but this is a colorless and a white. Does have flash as well, which I really like because it makes it a good combat trick if you need it to be. It has to enchant a creature, obviously. It lets you draw a card when it enters, and the creature gets +1/+0 and has flying. So it's another way to come over the top with one of those creatures we've built up, or even a creature that, say like Calyx, right? We can put it on Calyx. Calyx becomes a 3/3 plus gets this +1, so now it's a 4/3. You got to draw a card, and now you're attacking. Calyx connects, and now you get to copy anything you want, which leads to you being able to pump something else as well. Could even copy a Feather of Flight, so then you get to put it on something, and you get the +1/+1, and you get a card, right? So that's a thing you could do. So lots of fun stuff that this unlocks for this deck, really, and I'm a big fan, especially if you have the Inquisitive Glimmer that we talked about. This will be one less, so now you're just doing this for 1 mana at instant speed, which is actually really cool. So it gives you a lot of opportunity there. Also understand that the Inquisitive Glimmer could also make our Dollmaker shop cheaper as well. We could be playing the Dollmaker shop for 1, and we could be unlocking the gallery for 5. Or if we have 2 of them, we could be unlocking the gallery for 4. So keep that in mind as well. There's a lot of cool stuff we could be doing here. And then I kind of had to make a judgment call. I wanted to have a little removal in here, so we're playing a couple copies of Hunter's Talents. But I will say that if you don't know Hunter's Talents, we're basically playing it because when it enters, it allows one of your creatures to deal damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. Not really worried too much about the other stuff, being able to draw cards or whatever, so this could be replaced. And I feel like if we were going to replace it, I kind of would want to play Virtue of Loyalty. Mostly because you can use the adventure side to make the 2/2, which is nice. But the enchantment side is really relevant here, especially since we'd be able to play it cheaper because it pumps all of our smaller creatures. We get the triggers for it being an enchantment. Like, it has a lot of value to this deck. But I also want to admit, being able to play Hunter's Talent for 1 and then be able to level it up on the following turn or this turn or the next turn could be a pretty big deal to kind of letting the game kind of pull away a little bit. So it's a tough call. I think, though, because of the opposing aggressive decks, we probably want extra removal. So for now, I think it should be Hunter's Talent. But if for some reason you don't have these or you already like playing the Virtue of Loyalty, I think that's a totally reasonable card to have in here as well. And then Get Lost. Nothing too crazy, but again, this is kind of part of that same conversation about we got to have some removal. Get Lost also lets us get rid of enchantments and planeswalkers. We unfortunately don't get rid of artifacts with the build that we have, but what we're hoping for is that we can come over the top and not have to worry about the artifacts all that much. But we do have lots of ways to draw cards. We do have ways to make extra tokens. We have a lot of fun stuff going on here that could make this an actual viable thing. Now, the lands, we're not getting too crazy overall. I was really kind of toying around with different things, but realistically, we are going to play a full set of the Flood Farm Verge, and I think you're going to see this in a few lists. By the way, if you haven't subscribed, you really should, because I'm going to have several of these deck videos coming out in pretty short order, so if you don't want to miss those. But this is one of those things where people have asked, when should they be playing the Verge lands? Honestly, my simple assessment is, if you were going to be playing, I'm just going to use as an example, say 6 basic lands. Maybe you're going to play 3, maybe in this case, we were going to play like 3 plains, 2 islands, 2 forests or something, right? That was going to be the thing. I think it's okay to cut those numbers in half Well, in this case, islands and plains, right? And this is always going to be a plains. So if you cut your plains in half from what you were going to play, like in this case, the deck is predominantly white, so I would have probably had 5 or 6 plains in it anyway, then I'm going to go ahead and play this because it's basically a plains plus. Now, sometimes it'll just end up being a plains throughout the game because we don't draw any other basics. But that's okay. As long as we're not changing the number of basically white producing lands we would have in the deck, ignoring the other color, then there's almost no reason not to play these. And we do have a couple of Fable passages. We do have 5 basics. So there is a way easily that we could end up getting multiple colors out of this. But I think it's actually a cool thing to consider in a lot of the lists you're going to be playing. I would say go ahead and craft those lands if you want to, which, speaking of, that's another reason you want to subscribe. I'll have a crafting guide probably over the weekend that comes out right before the set goes live, so you'll get that as well. But yeah, I think this deck could be a lot of fun. It's also deceiving that it could be very fast. Like your 2-drops are very good, either making everything you play after that cheap or making you a bunch of bodies. We have ways to come over the top with flyers. We have ways to kind of win the late game when you're talking about ghostly dancers, being able to just value on value, right? There's just so much stuff going on with this list. This one should be a lot of fun, and I'm definitely going to be playing it during the streamer event because this should be a lot of fun. But yeah, like I said, subscribe, hit the like button on this video if you like these types of videos. Also, don't forget to hit the bell, the notification bell, to increase the odds that you actually get to see all the other stuff, and keep an eye out for those crafting things, don't craft things, whatever, because those videos go over very well every season. But that's all I have for you for now. We'll see you next time.